Right, name, Knives Out. Did you see it? I did. One sentence summary. The open and shut case of a mystery writer's suicide may not be as open and shut as it appears. Could you beat the villain? Spoiler alert, but you do see it coming before the reveal, because Chris Evans is arguably the biggest star in the film other than Daniel Craig, and he's the only person the dogs bark at, and on the night of Harlan's murder slash death, the dogs are barking for some unexplained reason. Anyway, he's the villain, Chris Evans. He's Harlan, the mystery writer's grandson, and he's willing to lie, backstab, and kind of betray people to get his inheritance. So could have beat him. Yes, I could. He hasn't done like a day's work in his life. He's like a pampered rich boy. Whereas I hurt my hands and stuff, ripping walls and stuff down yesterday. It was just wallpaper, but that's besides the point. I'm a street tough, so yeah, I could take him out. Anyway, how do you improve the film? I quite like this, but there were a few points I had. Ana del Armas, I don't know, that's probably not how you pronounce her actual name. She has like a Pinocchio condition where if she lies, she's sick, which is entertaining, but it is also bullshit. So I don't know why in the film it wasn't just mentioned that she was raised very strictly Catholic. So if she, tells a lie, she's visibly nervous. She starts sweating or her face flushes or something along those lines. Something that's actually real. There you go. Why, when the family members were introduced, were some of them introduced by name and with their name on the screen? Sometimes people were just introduced by name. Sometimes they were just introduced with people's names on the screen. Just make it consistent. Also, they were introduced during police interviews, so it would have been very easy for the policemen who introduced themselves before they started the recording in my head to just go, for the recording, can you please state your name? Why didn't they just do that? Anyways, Daniel Craig plays a detective man, and he's sitting in the background a lot for the initial interviews, and he's obviously told whichever the other detective is to ask when the characters turned up, because he taps a key on the piano and then the guy asks. Fair enough. But why was he sitting around in the dark outside the house all by himself for at least an hour? Because you see him talking to the family during the daytime, and then Anna goes outside. Anna? I don't know. She goes outside, and old Danny C sparks up a cigar, and she's all, "Ugh, I didn't know you were still here." So, like, it's been at least an hour, because it's now dark, and depending on what time of year it is, it could take many hours or a short amount of time. The point is, why has he been lurking around outside the house all by himself? It's creepy. Why did Michael Shannon have a limp? What happened to the family's mother? And what happened to Neil, Michael Shannon and Jamie Lee Curtis's brother and Harlan's son, who died? And it's only mentioned when, I think it's Joni, his wife, still hangs out with the family, still wants the inheritance. Why were none of those questions, addressed? What's going on? Um, so Anna Del Armas thinks she's poisoned Harlan, and she's obviously going to get in trouble for that because she's his nurse, and she thinks she has poisoned him because Chris Evans has previously swapped the drugs. Anyways, and then she thinks she swapped them, but she doesn't. Anyway, right. So Harlan doesn't want Anna to get in trouble for this, so he comes up with this whole plan where he's going to make it look like a suicide, a dramatic suicide. But why didn't he just film himself on a smartphone saying, "Look, I'm old, I'm in pain all the time, my nurse has gone out of the room, I've taken the drugs from her bag, I've injected myself, she doesn't know, this is my last will and testament, blah 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 blah." That is far easier then coming up with a whole elaborate plan of fake suicide. We can see from the blood splatter that he was alone. What blood splatter? That room was spotless. Daniel Craig is a pretty shitty detective, as is kind of mentioned in the film, that he just observes things and then waits for the truth to present itself. How has he become this famous? He can't just luck his way in at all of his solutions, surely. Would the police let you off of a police chase just because that you were not the one they were interested in, your passenger was? And also, Chris Evans mentions, oh, Baby Driver, and then she does actually become an amazing driver, but that's besides the point. But also at the end of the film, you know, mysteries have been revealed, Chris Evans is going to jail, but Ana de Armas, I don't know if that's her name, anyway, she is, you know, she's sitting pretty, but she did definitely lie to the police and, you know, try and cover up what she thought was a murder. So, like, would they just let her off? I don't know. Anyways. How come the security guard at Harlan's estate is still using VHS in the year of our Lord 2019? And why did he explain that you can erase the tapes with a magnet? Daniel Craig's character is said to be the last of the gentleman detectives. So is this a world where, like, Sherlock Holmes and Poirot, Hercule Poirot, were like real people? Because, like, we've seen an episode of Murder, She Wrote on, so, like, that's fake. Where's the line? Who knows? Speaking of Sherlock Holmes, Danny C refers to, I'm just going to call her Anna. I'm going to go with Anna. Anyway, as he refers to her as Watson a couple of times, and he should have done other sidekick names. Several times in this film, the logo of a phone is pointed at the camera for no real reason. And I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, if you're going to do crimes, particularly a murder, you've got to, like, burn all the clothes you're wearing at that time. Just makes sense. No trace evidence. So Chris Evans is 38 years old, and maybe he's playing a character who is younger, but it's said in the film that for the last 10 years he hasn't done anything to, like, help the family. So, like, if the character is 38, he was almost 30 by the time things went downhill for him. That's pretty good, really. So Harlan made himself a success. He started out with just a rusty typewriter. Now he's a rich dude. Why is Chris Evans kicking off about their ancestral home if he knows that Harlan started off with nothing? Why would they have a big ass house if he was a poor person, as the story goes? Anyways, towards the end of the film, Tox report is said as if it's a casual thing. It's not. Chris Evans learned an awful lot from his one summer being Harlan's research assistant. Frankly, it would have made much more sense if he'd spent several summers doing it, and then, you know, when he was around 28, let's say, things went off the rails. Daniel Craig, rolls up his sleeves in the conclusion with dramatic effect, only to just roll them down again and put on his jacket. Why was that? Was it for dramatic effect? Or was it because he was expecting fisticuffs and they just never materialised, so he was just like, oh, just do that. Harlan's lawyer said yada 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 whilst reading his will, and he seems quite unprofessional. Fran, the housekeeper, there's a scene where she is not dead, you know, you've seen it in the trailer, and there's a spider crawling on her face, and then, like, a little seconds later she wakes up. Like, you would thought if she wasn't dead, the spider crawling on her face would have woken up. Anyways, Fran, the housekeeper, keeps doobies at her employer's household. Frankly, she needs to go to rehab or something. She needs an intervention, honestly. Rating out of 5 beers. The token black guy actually says, damn! And they should have followed that up with, that is whack! but they didn't. But like I said before, quite like this, quite like the acting. I liked how kind of the same information was presented from different angles depending on who was telling the story. Give it a 2 out of 5.